Hello everyone, welcome back to Sydney and Starlette, and if you're new here, welcome. Enjoy the videos. So today, me and Sydney are going to be reading Disney Princess Cinderella, a read-aloud storybook. So let's begin. Who's that? Cinderella. Once upon a time, long ago, in a faraway land, poor Cinderella lived with her mean step-family. They filled her days with cooking, scrubbing, washing, and chores of every kind. Cinderella's stepmother and two stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella, never helped with her work. But Cinderella remained cheerful and kind. She made friends with all the animals that she met. Cinderella even made clothes for the mice, who shared her small attic room. One day, Jack, her favorite mouse, was upset. "What's all the fuss about?" Cinderella asked. Jack led her to a new mouse that was caught in a trap. Cinderella quickly freed the frightened mouse. Then she dressed him in new clothes and found the perfect name for him, Gus. When it was time for Cinderella to feed the chickens, the mice headed for the barnyard. Cinderella always saved some corn for them. But today, the mean old cat, Lucifer, blocked their way. Jack was chosen to get the cat to chase him. Then the other mice could scoot outside. The plan worked. Jack kicked the cat and angry Lucifer began chasing him. But Jack was too fast for Lucifer and made it safely into a mouse hole. While Lucifer waited for Jack to come out, the other mice scampered by him. Cinderella spent the rest of her day attending to chores. "Take that ironing," Drizella demanded. "Don't forget the mending," Anastasia added. "Pick up the laundry and get on with your duties," her stepmother ordered. Meanwhile, at the royal palace, the king complained to the Grand Duke. "It's high time my son got married," he sobbed. "I want grandchildren." The king decided to hold a ball. "If all the eligible maidens come," said the king, "the prince is bound to find his bride among them." The royal ball. Later that day, Cinderella heard a knock on the door. "Open in the name of the king," said the royal messenger. He handed Cinderella an invitation. When her stepmother read the invitation aloud, Drizella and Anastasia became excited. Each imagined the prince falling in love with her. Cinderella was also excited. "Why, that means I can go too," she said. The stepsisters laughed. "Every eligible maiden is supposed to attend," answered Cinderella. Surprisingly, her stepmother agreed. "I don't see why you can't go, if you get all your work done, and if you can find something suitable to wear." Cinderella raced to her room and found a dress that had belonged to her mother. With a little stitching, she could make it pretty. As Cinderella worked on the dress, her stepmother and stepsisters called for her and gave her many chores. "Get them done quickly," said her stepmother. When Cinderella had to put the dress aside, her animal friends began to work on it. They gathered the beads and a sash that the stepsisters had thrown away. Soon they had created a beautiful gown. Cinderella finally finished her chores and went to her room. Then she realized it was too late to get ready for the ball. She was so sad. Suddenly, the mice yelled, "Surprise!" They showed Cinderella the beautiful gown. "Oh, thank you so much," she cried. Cinderella put on the gown and hurried to join her stepfamily. But when her jealous stepsisters recognized their old sash and beads, they tore Cinderella's gown to shreds. Cinderella's friends watched sadly as she wept in the garden. "It's no use," she sobbed. "Nothing will help." At that moment, bright, sparkling lights began floating and swirling around Cinderella. Poof! Cinderella's fairy godmother appeared. "Dry those tears," she told Cinderella. "You can't go to the ball looking like that." "But I'm not going," said Cinderella. "Of course you are," replied the fairy godmother. She waved her magic wand over a pumpkin, and a regal coach appeared. "Oh, it's beautiful," said Cinderella. The fairy godmother waved her wand again. Jacques and Gus and 2 other mice turned into 4 beautiful white horses. Then she changed Major the horse into the coach driver and Bruno the dog into the footman. Next, the fairy godmother turned Cinderella's torn dress into a beautiful gown. In a flash, there were also tiny glass slippers for her feet. On the stroke of midnight, the spell would be broken. The fairy godmother warned. Everything will be as before. The glass slipper. The ball was just beginning when Cinderella arrived. She climbed the long staircase. "Oh, how happy I am," she thought. The king and the Grand Duke watched as the maidens walked forward to meet the prince. The prince was unimpressed with them all. Then he noticed Cinderella. Entranced, he walked past all the other maidens. He led Cinderella into the ballroom. They began to dance. They danced every dance until the clock began to strike midnight. Bong, bong. "I must go," Cinderella cried in a panic, freeing her hands from the prince's. As she fled, she lost a glass slipper, on the staircase. The clock sounded as the coach raced from the palace. It was midnight. The horses were mice again. Cinderella was in rags, but she still had 1 glass slipper. The next morning, the prince proclaimed that he would marry the girl who had lost her slipper at the ball. "Find her!" roared the king. The Grand Duke would check every house in the kingdom for a maiden whose foot fit the glass slipper. Cinderella was so happy. She eagerly awaited the Grand Duke's visit. No matter what Gisela and Anastasia ordered Cinderella to do, she nodded dreamily. Cinderella's stepfamily could not understand the reason for her joy. Then the wicked stepmother realized it must have been Cinderella who was the prince's favorite at the ball. She locked Cinderella in her room. "Let me out!" Cinderella cried, but her stepmother put the key in her pocket, laughing her meanest laugh. Then Cinderella heard a knock at the front door. The Grand Duke had arrived. Meanwhile, Jacques and Gus had seen what the stepmother did. They took the key out of her pocket and slipped it under Cinderella's door. Downstairs, the Grand Duke watched his footman try to squeeze Anastasia's big foot into the slipper. Of course, the slipper did not fit Gisela either. As she hurried down the steps, Cinderella heard the Grand Duke ask, "Are there any other maidens in the house?" "Please, wait," called Cinderella. "May I try on the slipper?" The angry stepmother tripped the footman as he approached Cinderella. The glass slipper shattered. "Oh no!" moaned the Duke. "But you see," said Cinderella, reaching into her pocket, "I have the other slipper." Quickly, the Grand Duke put the slipper on Cinderella's foot. It fit perfectly. Cinderella was the prince's love. Cinderella married the prince and lived happily ever after. And so did Jack, Gus, and all of Cinderella's animal friends. That
Is
the end.
no wait.
Yeah, that's Snow White. So that is it for today, everyone. I really hope you all enjoyed this lovely storybook. And we'll see you all next time.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Pick out your favorite page. Who's your favorite character?
Cyan.
Cinderella, yes. Goodbye.
Cyan.
Cinderella.